And welcome back to the Hot Lap. Max Verstappen broke British hearts in qualifying. It was looking like, could it be another 1, 2, 3 like it was in 2024? Nope. The Dutchman, the Flying Dutchman, put an awesome lap to put it on pole. Does that guarantee him a race win? Absolutely not. Having said that, he's got to be one of the favourites going in because he's very fast in those things you call straights that you need to help overtake. Let's get into it. So, a massive congratulations to Max Verstappen getting that pole position. It was a sensational lap. Having said that, it was the only lap amongst the top 5 where he didn't make a mistake on that lap, and all the others who could have also got pole position didn't because of their mistakes. We're talking Hamilton, Piastri, Norris, the C parted like he did for Moses, and Max Verstappen, well, you don't need to give him a second chance. He took it with, once again, an absolutely solid lap. So this is your grid. It's Verstappen on pole, Piastri second, third Norris, fourth Russell, fifth Hamilton, sixth Leclerc, seventh Alonso, eighth Gasly, ninth Sainz, 10th Antonelli with that penalty, 11th Tsunoda, 12th Hadjar. Yeah, not great for him really there. 13th Albon, 14th Esteban Ocon, 15th Liam Lawson, 16th Colapinto, 17th Stroll, 18th Pearman, 19th Hulkenberg, and last but no means least, well, maybe in this case, Colapinto is his. Yeah, well, we'll talk about Colapinto in a bit, but this was the qualifying and how close it was. And when you look at it, Hamilton lost at least a 10th and a half, if not more, in that last sector. Oscar potentially a 10th, Lando Norris potentially a 10th and a half. And when you look at it, that's why I'm saying awesome by Max. He's the one person that didn't make a mistake, and quite often that's what it's going to come down to. So all the top, essentially the top 5, the top 6 covered by less than 0.3 or 2.5 tenths of a second. You got to go back to Kimi Antonelli to look at about nearly half a second off. Ollie Behrman, what an absolute stunning qualifying lap in 8th, just over half a second down. I mean, it was absolutely amazing. Esteban Ocon is all the way down in 15th. But then we had that whoopsie-daisy in the pit lane, didn't we? For those who didn't know, Ollie Behrman received a 10-place grid penalty for having an accident. He was going quite fast, but having that accident in the pit lane under a red flag. So, poles with Red Bull. Verstappen now has tied with Sebastian Vettel. Verstappen 44, Vettel 44. Which is the more impressive, though? That's what's quite interesting, because both of them had very dominant cars. The only difference, I think, I would argue, is with Seb Vettel, he also had a very strong teammate in Mark Webber, and then obviously Danny Ricciardo. But then I don't think they got any poles in, in 2014, where Verstappen after Danny Ricciardo, no. But Vettel really got on with that car, and I think in terms of qualifying, they're both absolutely sensational. They both had really good laps, which is obviously helped by a really strong car. You don't have a good car, you're not going to get anywhere near the front. We know this. I mean, just look at Max Verstappen's attempt in Austria. It wasn't going to happen, was it? Sadly, but he does seem to put it out of the bag with him and Red Bull. They really nailed that car setup for qualifying, and I do think at times he's the one driver, as you've seen, that gets the absolute most out of his car consistently. And someone who didn't get the most out of their car was Oscar Piastri. He qualifies P2, although albeit if you got Max Verstappen on pole, the one person, there's probably two people you wouldn't want alongside you, and I'll probably say it's Oscar Piastri and or George Russell, because if they are alongside and they're neck and neck, they are probably not going to give way. They're arguably the two people that Max Verstappen's like, oh yeah, okay, might be a bit nervous about. Where I think Lando's quite kind, Leclerc is, Hamilton's 50-50, I think, depends. But you don't, Lando P3, I mean, he could hope for a squabble at that first corner between him and Oscar, and then take it away. Fingers crossed. I guess we'll see. But he was quite upbeat in the interviews. As with Piastri, he basically said, "Yeah, Max is, was better. Obviously, was better on the day." I still think that McLaren are going to be quietly confident for that race win. So Max Verstappen, as we spoke about, he is on pole. He does have that low downforce. I don't think it's going to rain. at Silverstone, but we might get drizzles before the race, and if that does, the track, and if it's a half decent drizzle, as in the track is actually properly wet, then you're looking at what they call a green track, where some of the tarmac, a lot of the tarmac is just washed away, and at that point, even without the hot weather, you can get in a very abrasive track, a very green track, at least in the first half of the race, which will be very angry on its tyres. Now, as we know with Max Verstappen, he has taken that downforce off, and therein potentially lies the problem where, with Max Verstappen's tyres, they could wear a lot faster than, for example, McLaren's or even Ferraris with their slightly higher downforce setup. It will still make Max difficult to pass, but if you can't come off the corners fast, you're going to be, no matter how good your high speed is, you could be potentially in trouble, especially with DRS. So that's going to be interesting. So, George Russell. Now, Kimi Antonelli, sadly, with that 3-place grid penalty, kind of justified. George P4. Yeah, George Russell P4. I think he's going to be happy. Mercedes has really struggled all the way, I think, until Q3, where George put in, I believe, a lap about as good as Verstappen's lap. And he's going to be really happy with the P4. He said himself, though, I think he needs something a bit extra if he's going to fight for victory. Now, when we look at Ferrari, Lewis Hamilton P5, Charles Leclerc P6. Interesting, Leclerc was belittling himself on the radio. I don't think I could play it here because it was a bit sweary. But yeah, Lewis Hamilton was a bit resigned. He was like, yeah, okay, it's going to be hard, obviously, from P5 to do anything. He thinks the McLarens and Red Bulls could be out of the league, but that's classic Hamilton, downplaying it himself, being a bit Lando Norrisy. Although Lando Norris is not being Lando Norrisy this time around, which is good. So we could see Ferrari when we could see him on the podium. We don't know what's going to happen during the race, and with the weather, you never know. The safety car at the right or wrong time as well. Could there be a red flag? You just don't know. Could there be an incident at the first corner? It's going to be interesting. And do not rule any of those Ferrari out. They were very fast on race pace. So along with McLaren, they're the only ones, nearish McLaren, I think, not consistently, but with their race pace. And Zach Brown constantly said throughout qualifying, and I think he's saying pretty much throughout the weekend, that it's going to be McLaren that are going to be, McLaren are more worried about Ferrari than they are Red Bull. Maybe not now, but at least in qualifying they are, and in terms of their race pace. So, yeah, that could be something to talk about later. This guy, P8, absolutely well done. Sadly, he starts nearly all the way back at the end of the grid, which is sad. Can he make his way through? Absolutely, he could. Could he score a few points? Yeah, he could. That would be absolutely amazing. He's got a good car. He has got amazing pace. I mean, well done, Ollie Behrman. So when we then go to the FP3 results for Haas, so I have no idea why I put that there. So let's quickly then find out where Esteban Ocon is going to be starting. He's going to be starting 14th, and in terms of actual qualifying, he qualified 15th, didn't he? So he gains a place thanks to his teammate, which is a bit sad for Behrman. But he's destroyed Ocon. But I do think those two work really well, and I'm pretty sure they're going to be at Haas next year anyway. So P11 and P14 for British Grand Prix qualifying. Yeah, Williams. I mean, Alex Albon appeared to intimate that they changed the setup of the car and it wasn't particularly very good. And well done. Carlos Sainz actually outqualified Alex Albon, which doesn't happen too often. So I maybe not expecting much. I think they could squeeze points, a point or two, but that depends on what happens during the race. P9 for Alonso, P18 for Stroll. Yeah, it's like flogging a dead horse at the moment, really, isn't it? I mean, what is the point of Lance Stroll in Formula One? Oh, don't even send answers on a postcard. It'd be a waste of money. But Alonso, P9, brilliant, fantastic. Points, absolutely. At one point, he was consistently like in third or in the top four, and you thought, oh, if he puts a good lap in. But then when it comes to Q3, everyone seems to rev up, as in, really improve. So, P10 and P20 for Alpine Colapinto. You got to start to wonder whether Flavio Briatore is dialing up a certain Finnish reserve Mercedes driver that rhymes with Lottas, simply because he's not really set the world light or done a great job. He did better in his first races for Williams, and that he peaked then, didn't he? Because after that, the pressure where, maybe he's getting a drive, Red Bull were looking at him, etc., etc. That's when it started to go a bit wrong, and then the pressure's on. and he seems to be crumbling, sadly. P10 for Gasly, absolutely, once again, equally, I think, Verstappen and Russell performance, because that car looked absolutely nowhere through the practice sessions, and to get P10, yeah, Gasly has done an absolutely amazing job, along with his engineers. So, P19 and P17, Bortoleto again out qualifying Hulkenberg, showing how good this guy really is. They got points from the back last time in Austria, so I think anything is possible at Silverstone. As I said, with that weather in the air, which we'll get into in a tiny bit. There's your grid, and here's the weather. Okay, this is... Let's try and zoom in a bit, shall we? This is Sunday the 6th of July we're looking at, okay? And there's 60 to 70 to 8, it goes up to 80% chance of rain at 11 o'clock, albeit, you know, it's not chucking it down, and then it goes down to about a 20% chance of rain at 3 o'clock. But here, if it rains here, and it rains heavy enough, that's what I'm talking about, the track being green, more abrasive, which could hurt Verstappen with his setup of the car being low downforce. He'll be sliding in those corners more, tearing up those tyres, potentially. 3 o'clock, no, it's not. But it's still, it's 20, you know, 20 feels like temperature. I mean, it's not exactly cold. You could just about maybe get with your t-shirt. But yeah, having said that, it is the UK. So at the time of talking about this weather on the 5th of July, 1727, or nearly 5:30, the UK, I mean, the weather can change with hours in the UK because it's an island surrounded by, well, obviously sea. So I'm not too sure. Now, in terms of what we think is going to happen for the race, I don't think Max is going to have it all his way. If he gets away in the lead, that's going to be looking very strong, and I've got no reason to think he won't, albeit he does have Oscar Piastri next to him. And the last, you know, in 2021, Lewis couldn't get away from the lead in the sprint race, and the same was said of Max Verstappen. It was neck and neck from that pole position. So I guess we're going to have to see. But in terms of the race, I expect the McLarens to be very strong. I do think Ferrari are going to be stronger than George Russell's Mercedes, but it depends how quick they can get past, and it's going to depend on safety cars and stuff. So, but you got to say, one of the McLaren drivers or Verstappen are probably the favourites. With Lewis, someone like Lewis Hamilton and Leclerc, definitely worth a bet on though. They probably have very good odds now, I imagine, coming after qualifying. Anyway, there we go. So Verstappen on pole. Congratulations to him. And that's about it. If you made it to the end, that's amazing. Give us a subscribe. That would give me a massive smile. If you're at Silverstone, I hope you have an absolutely lovely time. If you're supporting the Brits, shame. But they're still, what? I think they're 3rd, 4th and 5th. So that's not bad at all. Not as good as last year. But with 3 very big chances still to win the race, potentially. And have a lovely but safe time. Speak to you soon.